AI Chatbot Integration in Campus Management Systems. Author: Professor Dr. Stefan Bielitzke, Germany. Abstract.
The question is how large language models can be used reasonable in the teaching, administration or research by university students, lecturers or administrative staff. This article shows the necessity and the possibility of integrating a text intelligence like ChatGPT into a campus management system by using the Application Programming Interface (API). The free inquiry prompt can become a mixed inquiry, whose important parts and borders are defined and controlled by the university. The university can define how known data and requested data and established data are combined and used in an active dialogue with defined dialogue rules for different university services. The article first presents an empirical study in which 5,000 students were addressed by a chatbot. It shows that a lot of questions asked could have led to legal problems for the university if answered incorrectly. Based on this, a prototypical project is shown where instead of using a free chat, students communicate indirectly with the artificial intelligence (AI) via the campus management system (CMS) as a mediator. It is shown how a professional prompt can lead to controllable dialogues based on the university rules and data. Practical implementations such as learn question of the day, subject-specific motivation of the student, question about the examination regulations or help in finding a creative title are presented. Though the examples are specifically realized for the CMS TrainX, the description is meant to be general enough to gain insights for other systems.
1.0 Introduction.
Universities have been testing the use of chatbots for a long time, especially rule-based script chatbots were in the focus. These script chatbots do respond to a question within a prepared script and have a limited and well-defined area of expertise. They typically react to certain keywords in a chat, leading to a pre-planned dialogue. The user is then guided through a menu-driven dialogue to present him a final answer. However, the user experience with these chatbots can often be disappointing. Chatbots with artificial dialogue intelligence raise hopes for better service-oriented applications. These kind of chatbots have been developed based on successes in machine learning, which means that their rules are derived from the automatic analysis of a large amount of data and the patterns contained within that data. A simple text pattern could be that "the cat drinks" is mostly followed by the word milk or water. However, it is important to note that chatbots using the models known as GPT, Generative Pre-trained Transformer, like ChatGPT should not be confused with General Artificial Intelligence (AI) and Technological Singularity, as sometimes depicted in hype articles. Nevertheless, the language models behind them are very powerful in text analysis. Additionally, the dialogue appears more natural and human-like because the responses are based on a larger data set, which expands their capabilities. Real conversations can be created by considering previous dialogue parts, making people feel understood.
2.0 Empirical study on chatbot use by university students.
What questions would students ask if they had a chatbot to help them during their studies? This was the topic of a study in November 2022. 5,000 German students were greeted by a chatbot in their campus management system for a week during their daily studies. The chatbot said,
"Hello there. What's your name?"
and asked, pretending to be very competent, if it could help them with their studies. When a question was asked, the chatbot politely reminded students of its limitations in answering questions and ended the conversations. All questions were gathered and analyzed. It was found that 34% of the questions were about study content, such as "What should I learn today? How can I cheat better?" Or is a master's degree worth it? Technical questions were raised in 18% of the cases, such as how does the e-library work? Another 17% of participants asked questions related to university organization, such as do you have the email address of the exam office? It's noticeable that only around 10% of the 5,000 users interacted with the chatbot, and only 25% of them asked a question. 2.4% of the total. A post-survey showed that in 2022 many students didn't think a chatbot was competent enough for advice, so they did not start using it. However, the questions asked by the students who trusted the fake competent chatbot are important for developing future AI chatbots. After analyzing the given questions, it was found that if the chatbot answered them incorrectly, about half of them could have caused legal problems for the university. For example, a student asked the question,
How long should the homework paper be? How many pages?
If the chatbot had answered 20 pages are enough. Even though it contradicts the examination regulations, this can be considered legally problematic for the university. Answers regarding specific learning content could also cause legal difficulties. If the chatbot answers the question, what is ethics? With a definition that is outdated and rejected in the materials provided by the responsible teaching staff, it could result in a poor rating for the affected student by the teacher, and afterward complaints by the student. Because there are many questions that are legally questionable to answer, the categorization by interaction capabilities of chatbots has been expanded. The extension involves the additional dimension, accessible data. This is because the legal certainty of chatbot responses depends on the accessible data stock. Targeted optimization, enlargement or even limitation of the data stock could increase legal certainty. To ensure the legal certainty of responses, it may be advantageous if chatbot responses do not come from an open, but an only partly open, or closed data stock, as the following examples illustrate. In a situation like position 1 of the figure 2, the student could ask,
How long does an oral exam take? How many minutes?
The scripted chatbot would branch into a dialogue script based on the recognized keyword, oral exam, and ask through a menu whether a bachelor's colloquium or a practical lecture is meant. After the student selects an answer option from the menu, the chatbot ultimately quotes the relevant passage from the internal examination regulation, or refers to this source. Altogether, in this situation the quality of information is good, but the interaction with the chatbot can be considered as poor. If we do the same with an AI chatbot, like in position 9, the interaction is good and human-like in a natural dialogue. But it can be a legal problem if the AI chatbot gives a general answer, based on its general training's data. This may not be helpful to the student and could even lead to legal problems if the answer is mistaken for an official statement from the specific university. While rule-based chatbots are considered to have weak interactions, they can be legally secure due to their closed datasets. On the other hand, AI chatbots are highly interactive but can lead to legal uncertainties when their datasets are open. To be used in universities, chatbots that operate based on defined roles, the script bots, need to improve in terms of their interaction possibilities. Development path A. All AI chatbots need to be trained on a set of data that can be controlled. Development path B. We will now proceed with development path B.
3.0 Interface for creating controllable chatbots.
The question is how to best utilize AI chatbots based on GPT language models in teaching, administration, and research at a university while avoiding traps and drawbacks. When used effectively, These chatbots should benefit all parties involved, including students, teachers, administrative staff, and management. Currently, users' experiences with ChatGPT at universities are often limited to its use on the OpenAI website. This involves making a free text request like a phrase or a sentence to get an answer, and even follow-up questions and responses that come from a data stock that the AI has been trained on in the past. This type of direct ChatGPT use can be unfavorable for academic purposes, because the university cannot control the communication request specifically, or incorrect information could be put out from the general training data. Additionally, there could be disadvantage for students who have valid privacy concerns and do not want to be pushed to sign up for ChatGPT. In Germany, asking students to use ChatGPT would currently not comply with General Data Protection Regulation (GDPR), and therefore would be unlawful. One solution could be to use the Application Programming Interface API for the AI language model. This API allows universities to access the AI capabilities and the GPT model in a standardized and seamless way, even without the user having to register with ChatGPT. Through the API, the Campus Management System (CMS) acts as a mediator between the user and the AI and the GPT model. The mediator oversees the input, prepares the processing, and controls the output of the communication. Access will be easy. The user selects a function within the campus management system, the system that they already know very well. They enter necessary information and receive a response after a few seconds, which may include a possibility for a follow-up question. The entire dialogue takes place within the campus management system, and the user does not have a direct interaction with ChatGPT. The university can control dialogue opening, prompt layout, and other dialogue aspects according to Table 1.
Which users get what kind of services? Example: students may ask for AI title suggestions if they are in the final semester. Which data is requested by the user as part of the input? Example: field of study and 3 keywords are needed. Which other university data or task-specific data is used as input? Example: build the answer on the University Guide to Scientific Research work. In which way should the AI do the processing? Example: create 3 titles and 3 theses with possible falsification. How the general world knowledge of the AI is weighted in relation for the prescribed data. Example: each title suggestion should be more creative than the previous one. How AI should handle not known problems or unknown data details. Example: don't hallucinate persons, websites, or other sources. What role does the AI see itself respectively himself respectively herself in? Example: be a friendly, competent, and experienced college professor. Whether the AI passively waits for questions or actively seeks dialogue. Example: actively ask students whether they already have a title. What kind of output is wanted? Example: scope max 50 words per thesis. Tone of voice scientific, undergraduate level.
The creation of the prompt is central because it is the initial set of instruction that pushes the AI in the right direction. We distinguish between the spontaneous pure prompts that a user enters in the ChatGPT dialog box and the professional prompt that can be used by a GPT API.
3.1 Professional prompt versus pure prompt.
In the following, the difference between a poor prompt and a professionally created prompt through an API will be explained. For example, imagine that someone is in the final stage of their bachelor's degree and only has a few keywords regarding their topic. The goal is to come up with a good academic title. One option is to use the free ChatGPT version to get some title ideas quickly. However, if they want high-quality results, they would need to create a well-designed prompt that, for example, takes into account their school's requirements. They would need to test and optimize this prompt before using it for their request. If the prompt is a poor problem prompt and not good enough, the results will also be inadequate. Many users will give up in resignation and start to disbelieve in the abilities of AI. It is maybe underestimated that prompting is a challenging media skill. Some people are already talking about the profession of prompt engineers. Professional prompters will create very long prompts to guide the AI to an optimal result. Long means that the initial prompt consists of 150 initial sentences which lead to a set of questions, instructions and a successful dialogue including a final solution. The structure of such professional prompts needs to be developed by professionals, but then can be algorithmically used with a campus management system and automatically adapted for each user.
3.2. Professional prompt generating in the service TitleFinder.
In order to make the prompt more professional, a combination of known, requested and specified data is done by the campus management system. According to Figure 3, shown on the right side, the process is as follows. 1. The campus management system knows which student has to write a thesis. 2. Within the campus system, such students are given the option to click on the Find Title service. 3. The student is asked for 3 keywords for the planned work, as well as the number of pages and an existing working title. 4. The campus management system already knows the field of study, example, psychology, and the degree, example, bachelor. 5. For example, the university has specified no question marks in the title or the structure system. 6. When the student has answered the questions, the professional prompt is created in the background by combining the requested, known, and university-specific details, as well as the task-specific instructions for finding a title. The prompt consists of about 150 different instructions. 7. The Query Engine API is used by the CMS to query the GPT AI with the prompt, and the result is delivered back to the CMS TrainX. 8. The campus management system can roughly check the text response for words that are not allowed, or add additions like non-binding. 9. The requested title suggestion is displayed to the student within the campus management system. 10. The student can check the titles and, if necessary, adjust them and have a work outline generated for a title chosen by the student, which roughly meets the requirements of the university, for example in accordance with the structure system. The student does not leave the campus management system TrainX in any of the steps, and the AI is only involved in step 7 or the dotted purple area. The user does not see the prompt or know that an AI was used in the background to generate the answer. The user cannot engage in a free-form conversation. Technically, it is only a simple question and answer interaction, not a continuous dialogue.
A free version of the TitleFinder is available as TitleMate on the iOS Store, or as a website at titlefinder.trainx.rocks. The relevant screens of the TitleMate app for entering information and displaying results are shown in the Figure 4.
3.3. Other scenarios for the API.
In taking the chat out of ChatGPT first and secondly creating an own chat, which is based on the CMS data and realized by the API, the university can generate a lot of different solutions quickly. The university chatbot can be customized in different ways to improve the user's conversation experience. One way is for the chatbot to actively engage with the user and try to maintain a longer conversation, ask the user appropriate questions, and even let the chatbot try to follow the dialogue steps attention, interest, desire, action. The prompt should determine how the conversation flows, what role the chatbot plays, what its goal is, and when the conversation ends. Some successful examples have already been tested and realized using the few-shot method. This method involves providing the AI/GPT model with the data it needs at the start of the dialogue.
3.31 Student Applicant Advisor Chat.
When people who are interested in studying visit the public website of the university and select a specific study program, the chatbot will guide them into a conversation about that program. The chatbot will ask about the reasons for their interest and their relevant hobbies. It will introduce the study contents that match their hobbies or expectations. The chatbot may encourage them to explore the program further by mentioning typical courses, career fields, costs, application processes, and more information about the university. The chatbot only answers questions about the selected study program and does not provide general information, hallucinate websites, or imagine people, places, or costs. Example of a chatbot answer after the user mentioned that he is active on Instagram.
Yes, great. Your experience in Instagram can definitely be a good start for the study of media communication. But it is important to note that the program covers a wide range of topics beyond social media. Are you interested in
3.32 Learn Script Quiz/Question of the Day.
The chatbot will poke a student to start a dialogue and quickly direct the conversation towards a topic related to the student's studies. In the background, the chatbot is automatically given relevant data, like a small chapter from a current textbook of the student's courses. The chatbot is also given instructions on how to develop a question based on this material. The student will be asked the question after an introduction, and the answer will be evaluated and possibly discussed. The student will be praised or encouraged to engage more with the material. For example, the chatbot asks the student,
Hello Albert, do you remember that your exam on international trade will be soon? Today I have an exciting question for you about international trade. Please explain the difference between import and export.
3.33 Motivations Chat.
The chatbot talks to students on the homepage of the campus management system during times when they may need extra motivation. The chatbot knows the student's name, gender, preferred language, field of study, and next 5 classes. Its job is to act as good and empathic friend from a higher semester and to motivate the student, reflect positively on their classes, and give practical tips on time and study management. Just listen to problems and bring some comfort to the student. The chatbot starts with a general question about the student's field of study, position 1 in Figure 5, and then tries to talk about one of their specific classes or ask if certain topics are being covered. It won't answer general questions, position 3 in Figure 5, but it might give tips on efficient studying or talk about job opportunities, position 4 in Figure 5. If there are any legal questions, the chatbot will say it can't answer them and advises the student to check the CMS Drain-X. The conversation ends after about 5 interactions. This motivation chat was also created for employees. Administrative staff are addressed shortly after lunchtime for a motivation chat. The prompt provides the person's first name, department, and approximate age to adjust the tone accordingly. The AI asks about their current task, provides encouragement, praise, or comfort, and gives tips for more efficient work organization. The university can set a general or employee-specific motivation or learning goal, even kind of an agenda, such as tasks should be done always precisely, or time tracking need to be used in a correct way, or increase the loyalty. The conversation ends politely after about 5 interactions. With some additional effort, it would be possible for the university to track how much people use the motivation chat, either by how often or how well they use it. However, this would make users rightly feel uncomfortable about that service and would not meet privacy rules. So, it's important to make sure that specific conversations are never saved and therefore get trackable by the university management. This needs to be guaranteed by a never store without exception technology in such a service from the start.
4.0. Expanding the used text data.
To access larger amounts of data, one has to expand the few-shot learning method, which is used in the examples above. In the previously used API few-shot, the GPT AI is given the necessary data for the dialogue. For example, when chatting with the TitleFinder, the GPT AI receives a few paragraphs from the university's scientific work course, namely, creating theses, falsification versus verification, and how to structure a numerical outline. However, for the motivation chat, the paragraphs on motivation in studying and time management in studying are used as data. Each paragraph is about 3 pages long and has a length of 6,000 characters or 2,000 syllables/tokens. This is the maximum of data that can initially be passed if the following dialogue should have around 5 questions.
4.1. Embedding instead few-shot method.
To use text data that is longer than 6,000 characters, such as a complete course textbook or an examination regulation, a different approach must be taken. The approach called fine-tuning would be a solution if one wants to expand the general training data used by ChatGPT. For use via the API, the embedding approach is better because the used data remains under control of the university. Embedding requires breaking the text manually into paragraphs, each with a title and a suitable question about this paragraph. Then the text is tokenized by an algorithm, which means counting syllables. Next, it is vectorized by a special algorithm, which is kind of a specific preparation of the text for text analysis and word similarity. The final document consists only of numerical vectors instead of letters. It is stored as a vector model on the university server. The vector document is like a compiled version of the original text and is used by the GPT AI to recognize similarities in the text sections. To answer questions, the GPT AI only needs the vector model, which is called by its name. In all requests, this model, such as the examination regulations, can be referred to. The prompt itself is still constructed as previously described, with only the databases to be used area referring to the vector model. Though this process is not easy, it is only suitable for documents that are too long for few-shot learning and for which the effort is worth it due to a high volume of requests while being unchangeable over time, such as a standard study guide or university-wide examination regulations.
4.2. Example from the administrative sector.
A request for a university-wide examination order can be realized through embedding. Since few-shot learning is not suitable for including documents such as 30-page exam regulations as text data. Therefore, the document has been completely tokenized/vectorized and can be accessed via a unique model name through the prompt. The compiled exam regulations can be used for any prompts. It could be made accessible to students through the question to the exam office chatbot service, where the bot maybe acts like an experienced fellow student from a higher semester, while maintaining a youthful yet correct but unbinding style. Or it could be made accessible to administrative staff as support for legally binding statements, as described now. For example, a German administrative assistant from the examination office could receive an email in English from a student. The email arrives within the campus management system and can be pre-processed by the administrative assistant by clicking Translate into German with the option Summarize what is the main question. From the result, the administrative assistant concludes, for example, that the answer can be found in the examination regulations. They click Answer the main question. Select the option Use Examination Regulations 2023. Provide relevant additional information such as inquirer is studying via distance learning, and choose the option Quote relevant passages of official document. Again, one can request, process and output the whole question answer text inside the campus management system without knowing to use a GPT AI. Admin staff can even ask for more information in their responses and create new response suggestions. The response can also immediately be formatted in an email writing style, translated into the school's communication language, for example English, and sent securely through the campus management system while automatically conforming to a formal yet friendly communication style. A problem is that, according to European General Data Protection Regulations (GDPR), no personal data may be transmitted to services in the USA. This scenario examination regulations request can therefore only be used in Germany if the request is anonymized in such a way that no personal data is contained, for example no surname and no matriculation number.
5.0 Conclusions.
For many years, algorithmic intelligence, developed by humans, has been supporting students, teachers, and administrators in dealing with problems that require mathematical or well-structured operations, such as room assignments, workload distribution, exam registration, and evaluation. Algorithmic intelligence is safe to use and legally secure in these fields because it produces the same results for identical requests. For example, a final grade is always calculated using the same principle and not in a creative way. In addition, the algorithms can be tailored very precisely. And, sometimes most important, if using algorithmic intelligence, it can be clarified how an answer/decision was reached. But generative language models can be very helpful for text-based tasks, especially if they are poorly structured or need creativity. However, there are problems with using ChatGPT directly, including privacy concerns and the lack of prompt media literacy among users, as well as that the university-specific data is not well known by the AI. Only by using the API it is possible to integrate AI language models into university software systems, and that new solutions and services can be developed for the university. As shown, using the API enables the university to control the AI with a specific prompt. This professional prompt is made up of parts that are well known or gathered through questioning, and tailored to the university's specific needs. Additionally, the API allows you to expand the data used with university-specific information, or limit the request to only specific data. It makes sense to use the API integrated into the campus management system because the CMS is controlled and monitored by the university, and the CMS has knowledge of relevant data and situations. When a GPT AI is integrated into a campus management system like TrainX, all members of a university can access it through the web without the need for users to register and worry about their privacy. To express it in a mathematical formula, subtract chat from ChatGPT and add API, and then take the result and multiply it by CMS. This equals a university chat system. The question is how quickly text-based AI technology is developing. Soon, it will be able to recognize and interpret images and diagrams, generate them, and search for data on the web in seconds. If the language model of ChatGPT can be installed locally on a university server, and the data protection issue is solved, it is likely that AI-based services will become widespread at universities. The AI does not disrupt the universities or the existing campus management systems, but rather adds and improves services and functions. For CMS TrainX, it is estimated that around 30% of the features can be improved. Even these 30% can be crucial in the competition between CMS and the competition between the universities. Therefore, the integration of AI into suitable services in campus management systems should be done carefully, but quickly, to relieve the administration, improve teaching and learning, and elevate the university to a new level.
Acknowledgements.
The empirical study was realized and financed by Trainings Online ePortals GmbH Germany, which is an associated partner in the European Union Erasmus Plus project HyBod, enhancing hybrid teaching in higher education through chatbots. Trainings Online develops and operates the campus management system TrainX, www.campus-management-system.de. All examples were planned, developed, and realized by Trainings Online. All examples are successfully integrated in the campus management system TrainX as an available module for German universities. TrainX is a pioneer in the field of including artificial intelligence functionality into campus management systems by using the GPT API. Author, Professor Dr. Stefan Bieletzka.